Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, welcome back. Monday is a weird day to record a podcast because I'm like, we'll release one tomorrow, so what way am I going to speak about what day it is? It's a bit confusing. But anyway, here we are. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health. So what's up,
everybody?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Good weekend. Had a nice rest day yesterday. Much needed. I tell you, the programs that we would normally do when you'd set the training up would be like, you do, 2 or 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 or 3 days on, 1 off, whatever, depending on what it was. I think it was 3 days on, 1 day off. And doing 6 days straight of heavy lifting and then doing one rest day, you're like, I need this rest day. It's like, I deserve this rest day.
Yeah. I actually think originally whenever I set it out, it was 2 days on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, but you just wanted to compress it to get the 3 days in together. So you did the Dave edit.
Yes, I did. I can't have that many days off. I feel like I'm missing something. Although yesterday was really nice. So we talk about putting the work in and all that stuff. And so as part of that, I have cardio. Part of that, I have my steps. Part of that, is obviously the nutrition, and then the resistance or weight training. And yesterday, I think I probably got about 2,000 steps, maybe. I'm like, it was one of those days where I was like, I'm not doing anything today. I am going to relax. I'm going to chill. I did go to my son's basketball game. He had 2 basketball games on Sunday, and he did really good. And but other than that, I didn't do anything else. Like, it was just I actually napped on the couch, I think, for 2.5 hours, and then went to bed at like 10:30. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
So a proper rest day then.
It was a good rest day. I didn't do anything that I didn't take any pictures with dumbbells or anything like that. It was just a proper training or resting day for me. So
okay, good. And how do you feel today?
Really good. I hit the ground running this morning at Orange Theory. It was funny because normally you really can't compete with somebody next to you, but today they kind of mixed it up, and so it was a tread block where you'd run 0.5 miles, then you would do 50 air squats, and then you do a 500-meter row, then you do 0.4 40 squats, 400-meter row, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a guy next to me, and he's a great guy, he's just, but I, of course, I'm getting super competitive because he's one of the stronger people there. And so I just smoked him, man. I was running 12 miles an hour trying to get my 5 in and get that in. I do my 50 squats and he's just finishing, and I'm like doing the rower really fast, and I get back up there and I'm already dead, and I'm trying to do the 4, and eventually I finish it, and I was the only one in the class to get through the 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, and then you just run for distance after that. And so I was the only one running for distance, which was really cool. So I won in my own mind, so it was a good time.
You won the competition that nobody else knew they were involved in?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly right. I was competing against everybody that knew nothing about them competing about it. But one thing I do want to say... Go ahead.
It's like whenever you're a kid and you're on the motorway, you're in a race with everybody, but as soon as they pass you, they're out of the race. They're automatically disqualified.
These are my rules. These are Dave's rules.
This is my house.
Yeah.
You don't know shit.
Well, I'll tell you a really funny story. So, I don't drink often, and Friday, I'm like, man, I really feel like some hard seltzers. It's going to be a hard seltzer night and some video games, and so I my recovery on Friday was like a 93% or something like that, which is really good recovery. My body's doing well, and I had like 5 or 6 hard seltzers, and I was feeling it pretty good on Friday. Woke up in the morning with a 9% recovery. It was like your body is dying at this point in time from those 5 hard seltzers. It's just amazing how much alcohol has an impact in your performance, recovery, everything else around it. And the next day I didn't have any, obviously. I was back up to 84%. So it was drastic.
How did you find it affected your training? So obviously you trained on Saturday.
Yeah.
How do you, in relation to what the whip tells you and your recovery and your actual training sessions, so take, separate from the wearable tech to how you actually felt in your session?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, when I woke up in the morning, I was definitely dragging ass, right? So what I decided to do was, space out my workouts so that'd be in the afternoon. So hopefully I had a little bit of recovery time to kind of wake up and do everything else. So by 2 or 3 o'clock, I was feeling pretty decent. And then as soon as I started sweating, getting the workout, I did, I don't always do this, but it's recommended for folks. I just don't like doing it. But, doing a quick, like 5-minute to 10-minute warm up that, like there's a little bit of cardio, things like that does show to have an increase in performance when you're doing weight training. And I don't normally do that though, because I already have busted my ass kicking myself in the ass or cardio in the morning. So I did like a 5-minute, warm up just to kind of get my body into that little sweat. And I found that I still hit the ground, pretty hard on the weight training. So I didn't notice any degradation in my weight training performance, which was really good. So even though I was at 9% recovery, but I also will say afterwards though, I mean, I felt super tired and I was really run down that day for sure.
Yeah. But a big fuck you to whipping their 9% recovery. That's where I definitely, like the first time that I used it, that's where I definitely went wrong, because obviously you're supposed to use the data, towards your training and know when to pull back. I was just like, whatever, I'm going to go and train anyway. So I didn't actually, I had the numbers, but I didn't actually use the data. So
yeah.
But that podcast will be released tomorrow, which was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good one. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about time management and business. I think this is a good one because always we joke that, you have 36 hours in your day. Like, how the hell do you fit so many things and tasks in? And I think, whether you run a business or not, or, family life or whatever, everybody's level of busy is different. And it's just about how we can sort of optimize and maximize the time that we have. Tips from me, tips from you, and, suggestions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, you also, I mean, from a training perspective, as you continuously add more and more people, how are you putting the time in for yourself and your body? Because, I mean, you're obviously, working with a lot of people that are going through their own struggles and tribulations and trials and everything else, and managing the check-ins and the meetings and the one-on-ones and everything else that comes along with it. It's the same boat, right? It's not that we're any busier than one another. It's just, we have to be able to prioritize time for ourselves. And I think when you look at business, right, I run 3 successful businesses, and, I'm a CEO of one, I'm a CTO of another, and I'm like, I don't know what I am in the other one, but it's taking up all my time, but something, I'm like everything to nut. But anyways, I'm like a general contractor, I'm a landlord, it's like, but anyways, it's one of those things where there's time in a day to do your work. And I think, the best perspective I can give is when Chris had Nagy first started, right? And Chris is like, hey, I can only dedicate an hour a week, I think it was an hour a week, wasn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, two half-hour sessions.
Yeah, 2 half-hour sessions a week because I'm so busy. I'm just overly busy. I can't do any more than that. And, what I loved about it was your response to it, which was, okay, cool, let's figure it out. Let's start with it. And you start out with those 2 half-hour sessions, and then you start to realize, hey, I can do this. I like this. I might have some more time for this to be able to dedicate. And then it starts to expand. And Chris is working out, just as much as I am. Not remember your phrase. He's not working out just as much. I'm definitely working out harder than he is, but he's close to that. He's like a little bit closer to me than that. It's one of those things where you really do have the time if you make time for yourself. And so, for me to kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown into my schedule, I live and die by my calendar. Like, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening that day. And there's so many things that hit you from all angles. Like, a good example is by 9 o'clock this morning, it's the Monday rush is what I like to call it. And I had already 60 emails in my inbox by like 9:05, right? There's no intelligible way I'm going to get through all of those in one day. And now I'm probably at 120 or so. I kind of try to whittle them down when I have breaks and things to that effect. But I already know, listen, from 8:15 to 9:15 in the morning is Orange Theory. I schedule at least 1 hour I try to get an hour and a half in for my lifting routine. And then as soon as I'm done with work for the day, which is usually around 5 or 6, I try to get a quick walk in before all my kids' sports start, right? And so that's kind of like my thought pattern of how I can do it. Now, does it work every day? No. Now, I make sure every day that I can get my weight training in. That's, like first and foremost. But, I look at that and say, okay, well, how do I fit this in? Well, I have a lunch break, right? So at noon, I can usually go and do, my hour-long lift, an hour and a half maybe if I don't have anything at 1:30. And then for my next meeting, I can usually get my food in right there. Maybe I'll just do a protein shake and then I'll pop in a quick meal that's ready by 1:30 so I can eat really fast for my next meeting as I'm on there. And, I kind of balance that throughout the day. Or let's just say it's an internal meeting where I'm comfortable with the people I'm talking to. I can go for a walk during that hour meeting and talk while I'm actually getting a walk, and no one cares. No one minds that. So, it's a matter of taking a look at your schedule and saying, where can I fit these blocks in? And maybe I can't do it all right now, but I'm going to start to work there as things go. And you prioritize your health as the same way you'd prioritize your business or prioritize your time that you're hacking or the time that you're doing certain things, things else. I still accomplish everything I possibly can in my day. It's just I'm also incorporating things for me as well to be the best I can possibly be, to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think there's definitely two sort of factors in terms of, if we use Chris as an example, with those 2 half-hour sessions, what tends to happen from my experience is that people, number one, like the feeling after they train and want more of it, but then almost find that they're more productive and they can actually get more stuff done in the time that they're actually in work. And obviously you spoke a lot about mental clarity and being able to focus more and being more productive and just everything firing on all cylinders. So if you have something that sort of opens that gateway to get you to that feeling, you want to do more of it. And if it's training, if it's cardio, if it's going out for a walk, if it's steps, whatever it is, you will find the time to do it, because ultimately it's going to make you more productive. It's going to make you better at work. It's going to make you more creative, whatever it is that you're doing. And I think that's sort of where the sort of positive loop comes into it. I was actually thinking about this just this morning after we chatted about the topic. I think that the best thing that I can my best piece of advice in terms of time management and getting things done is be okay with saying no to things, because I think a lot of people just say yes and then they go, shit, right, how am I going to actually do this? And one thing that I've sort of learned is you have to be able to say no to certain things, or at least give a realistic time frame on things, because if you just keep saying yes to things, then you're the one that gets overwhelmed, and then you start to not deliver on the promises that you made and you let people down. So if you can get comfortable with saying no and being realistic with your time, I think that's probably a good start point. And obviously, as you said, live and die by your calendar. It has to, like, again, saying if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to recognize, is that, there is no possible way for you to accomplish every single task that you have at hand at a given day. It's just not possible, right? So you have to prioritize, hey, what are my most important tasks out there? What are the most important things for me to accomplish? And let's make sure that those are incorporated into my daily schedule. But it does require planning. Like, you can't just YOLO it every day and be like, well, I'll get to it tomorrow, I'll get to it this next day. It needs to be a regimen. Like, I know for a fact that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll be at Orange Theory working out at 8:15 and 9:15. And I know for a fact those days that I'm going to be lifting anywhere between 6 to 8 hours after that for my actual lifting session to ensure that I can get my lift in. So, and then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I usually work out first thing in the morning, and I take my pre-workout then. And so, I know for a fact that I have those times blocked off for me, and that, it's in my calendar. People know about it. It's not something that, is a surprise to anybody. And I understand that my work flexibility may be different. At Trusted Sec and Binary Defense, we really have what we call flex hours, where you can show up, and as long as you're getting your work done, we're not counting your hours. We're not, seeing if you're coming in at the right time. So we're a little bit more flexible than others. I know folks like Jason, for example, who's always on call, right? He's 24/7 on call. And I remember when he first joined, he's like, I don't have time to do this, and I don't have time to do this, but he's been making time himself, and he's a lot happier because of it, because he's dedicating time to himself. So we all have time for ourselves. And I think, that's what we have to recognize, is that it's not selfish of us to take time for ourselves. And that, if you block off your lunch break and you're going to get your lift in then, or you're going to wake up just an hour earlier just to get your workout in. I prefer mornings preferably for workouts. I just feel like I'm kind of fresh and ready to go at that point in time, and I feel accomplished as I've already worked out. I don't like doing night workouts. I feel like I'm like kind of unwinding and ready to kind of chill out. By the way, there's a good study on HIIT training at night, has a good impact on fat loss. So there actually is some good stuff that happens at night when you're doing HIIT training. That was on the latest Huberman Labs podcast.
I think we've mentioned Huberman Labs podcast every episode. Like, I think
I know.
We're big
it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Actually, I want to make a point on this just quickly, because I was thinking about this earlier. one thing that I want to say about, even what we're saying and about all the stuff that Andrew Huberman's saying, just remember that that's just one person's opinion about things, because somebody, Walter in the chat, mentioned the thing about turmeric, and I listened to it on the way back from the gym earlier on. And, I understand that it's backed by science, but at the same time, there's always there's generally like a contradictory study or whatever it is. So, if you do something for a long period of time that makes you feel good, or it helps you in some way, or you find the benefits of it, just because you listen to one podcast that tells you that maybe it's not such a good idea, don't just stop doing it. Do a bit more research, whether it's something that we say, whether it's something that Dr. Andrew Huberman says, like I get he's a scientist, whatever. But, just because that one person says something against something that you've been doing for a very long time, do a bit more research yourself, because I think that can definitely be like, oh, well, he said because he's a scientist, so I'm just going to stop. And it's like, it's make you feel good for the past 5 years. Maybe just sort of do a bit more research on it.
Yeah, and I think, everybody's body is different too, of how they react to certain things. So, like you look at my supplement list and Ben's supplement list, it's ridiculous, right? We're taking way too much than we need to, but it's trial and error. It's finding out how our bodies respond to things and kind of maximizing and do everything else. So, I think it's up to you to kind of see how you feel. Are you feeling great? Someone's like, well, hey, what effects have you had for it? Well, I feel great. So that to me is an effect, right? I'm feeling good. I'm optimized. My blood work's coming back great. I have a lot of energy throughout the day. I'm able to recover faster. These are all things that, you can kind of anticipate for it. And one thing I want to hit on very importantly with this whole time management thing is, please do not look at my schedule as something that you have to do. Like when someone says, okay, I can't believe Dave can shave off, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for cardio, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for lifting, getting 15,000 steps in a day. That's an intense level of going at it, right? Same thing for Ben, right? We're at a certain position where, we're pushing ourselves to the absolute max to see how far we can take this, right? And honestly, there's probably room for more, but I maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty jacked. I'm tired on Sunday, but we're trying to push this as hard and fast as we can on this side. It does not mean you need to do the same thing. If you're just getting in, 10,000 steps a day, that is fantastic. That is incredible. You're burning anywhere between 500 to 700 calories, extra a day that you wouldn't be burning normally, right? Same thing for if you're able to get, 3 days a week, some resistance training and doing full body workouts instead. That's fantastic for you and muscle growth and hypertrophy. So, don't take the schedules that they were seeing and saying, hey, I have to do that tomorrow, because what you'll find is and that's what I think a lot of people fail at, is that they go on this hardcore diet like this, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden they fail because it's overload, right? You're basically loading yourself with too much that you can't end up doing. Start off small. Just, this week, I'm going to try to get in 4 days where I go outside and I walk, or, I get, 10,000 steps in. That is a amazing start, and start to, gradually add more things on over time and see what you can handle and how you enjoy it and how you respond to it. If you just absolutely hate it, then don't do it. So those are things that I enjoy, going out and walking in nature. I love it. I love the sounds. I love the peacefulness of it. I love seeing dogs running around, it's just a fun experience for me that kind of, makes my brain shut down from the day-to-day technology aspects of things I deal with, and just allows me to kind of be me in the, out in the wild. Now, granted, I'm not like foraging for food and stuff, but it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, it's a relaxing period. So find what works for you and build in what you can from a time perspective. And even if that's only an hour a week, like Chris first started off with, that may grow into something more, may not, but it's a way for you to at least get started in this journey, right?
Yeah, and I think, that is definitely a big barrier for people. Like, oh, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. Probably because they're setting themselves up with unrealistic expectations of being like, oh, I need to, do fucking 6 hours cardio a week, and I need to do, 6 lifting sessions and walk 20,000 steps and blah, blah, blah. Like, from doing nothing to doing all of that, like, you're setting yourself up for failure. And it is just a case of start off small. And even when we started, you weren't training at the same level that you are now, and it's been gradually built up over time.
Yeah.
And I think, there's levels to everything. And even, with my own training, and full disclosure, like, the past couple of weeks, I've struggled to get everything in, but I've found a way to manage it one way or another, whether I get up slightly earlier. Even today I had to get up slightly earlier to get my check-ins out of time because childcare was off and we had to look after Harper for half the day, and everything sort of just got shifted about. But I got up earlier, got the majority of my check-ins done, got her left off, still able to go and train, have my group coaching call there just before this. Now I'm recording the podcast. Then later on, I'm going to do the rest of my check-ins, and then I'll have our group call that we've moved from Wednesday to Monday today. So, everything.
Wait, what?
You suggested Monday.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you did.
We moved it to Monday.
Yeah, you did. That's why you moved this call.
Oh, that's right. I have it in my calendar. You're right. Okay, I was just checking. We're good.
But anyway, yes. So although the framework of each week for me is similar, if something comes up and I need to swap it around, as long as I know ahead of time, I can swap it around. It's generally fine. One thing you said about prioritizing tasks, I don't know if you've ever done this, but something I've done before. It's a thing called the Eisenhower Matrix, where you basically literally make a list of everything that you need to do on a daily basis or a weekly basis and prioritize it. And it literally is 4 boxes. So it's like urgent, non-urgent, on either side into 4 boxes. And then you basically prioritize it in things that you need to get done. And it'll give you the do right now section, decide when to do it, delegate, or just eliminate. And you'll be amazed at how many things that you don't actually need to do. It's just like faffy things that fillers. So you get rid of those. Anything that you can delegate. And this is actually something that Martin, the guy that takes my photos, a photographer, that he says, if you can work out a value on your time, like a price per hour. Now, obviously, I don't have a price per hour, but if you work out basically how you value your time, any task that isn't to the same value of that is something that can be delegated, so you can pay somebody else to do it. And that for me was sort of when I realized I was a control freak, to be able to delegate those things out. But in terms of being able to go to this person to do that, whether it's, graphic design, whether it's editing the podcast that we will delegate but haven't done it yet because I still am holding a bit of control of it, or, doing the graphics or whatever it is, there's people who this is their job, who will do it better and faster for cheaper than you will be able to do it yourself. Do you know what I mean? If I have to go and learn how to use Photoshop to be able to do a graphic, it's going to take me fucking ages because I'm not a very fast learner or things like that. Whereas if I can just pay someone to do it, they'll have it done in a couple of hours. I have the time to do my check-ins and everything that sort of allows me to move the business forward. So yeah, being able to eliminate tasks, delegate tasks, decide when they need to, and do the ones that are high priority tasks. An actual book on that, I don't know if you've read it, is Eat That Frog. It's a super short book. I think it's 21 chapters, but they're 2 or 3 pages each. And they're all super actionable tasks to get things done. And basically the premise of the book is if you eat the frog, which is the ugliest task of the day, then everything after that's going to be much better. So if you look at your task and go, fuck, right, this is going to be a real headache, or, I need to speak to that person or whatever it is. If you get that done first, the rest of your day seems to run much easier. And I would have almost done the opposite of that. And I looked at my task and said there was 15 things on my to-do list. I'd be like, right, I can tick this off, and I'll feel like I've done 4 things I've accomplished, easy things like text Dave back or make a phone call or whatever it is. So I've ticked 4 things off my list, but I still have that one that's lurking in the background that sort of throws off all day. So being able to, I would definitely recommend reading or listening to that book, being able to sort of recognize what that big priority task is for the day or for the week and getting that done. It'll allow every other task after that to seem slightly more manageable.
Yeah, I think that price point is a good thing. How do you? It's the same thing we do in security from a risk perspective. You look at vulnerabilities as an example, and you have all of these different vulnerabilities that a company has to address, and it's all about prioritization. Hey, is there an attack that's already being used out in the wild that we need to reprioritize ourselves to go and do it, right? It's the same way we need to look at our time management, which is what's the most important for me to accomplish my tasks, and assigning a monetary value or a value personally to yourself is important. There's just things where, listen, I get a direct message on Twitter, and I want to be able to respond to them in right away, but I just don't have the time to respond back to them right away because I'm so busy for the day, right? It's not on the top priority list. Now I will go back and get there. It just takes time for me to get there because I'm so busy with everything else that's going on. I just don't have time to go and do it. Right now, my Tesla lease is expiring, and for the past week, I've had to take pictures of it so that I can get it returned, but I haven't had time. So, I could have totally did it yesterday on my rest day when I took a 3-hour nap, but I didn't. So my nap was more important prioritization wise than actually getting my lease taken care of on my Tesla. So, but it's those things that I think when you look at how you kind of look at your day, there are set things that you should want to accomplish on a regular basis, i.e., things for yourself, things for your family, going to practices or going to go see your kids, playing a football or softball game, or whatever it ends up being, or going out with your wife for dinner. Those are all important things that you should recognize, but you should also equally look at the time that you're putting in for training as the same type of importance level. And I'm not saying that, your time with your wife or your children is more important than you. That's I obviously would say my time with my wife and my kids are more important than time for myself. But you still need to look at it and say, I still need time for myself, right? And I think it's that time of day that you need that really starts to bring things into perspective around the time management side. And so one thing I can say from a business perspective is that, if you're obviously I run 2 companies, so I can kind of make the rules, right? But you may not be in that specific type of situation. So some things that you might want to consider is, are your direct management or people that you report to okay with you taking a call from a walk, for example? Ask that question of like, hey, I'm really trying to get fit and things like that. Is it okay if I take this meeting from a walk? And, if it doesn't require you to be hands-on keyboard or things to that effect, it might be something to kind of consider in your day-to-day side. Or, for me, I got this Vera desk. It's one of those mechanical desks that you can move up and down. And it also has I have underneath that, I have a walking treadmill. Now, the biggest complaint that I'll get, two complaints, one is my Fitbit or whatever doesn't track it. You guys mentioned in previous podcasts, attach that to your shoe, and that's a way of getting your steps in for the day where you can track, because you're not making that motion with your hands. But the second thing is that, I can't get used to it with the keyboard side. And here's the thing, I remember I was playing video games, and for the longest time, all my friends would make fun of me because I was still using a controller on PC, because I had switched over from Xbox to PC, and I was still using the Xbox controller for like Destiny and things like that. And, eventually I decided to make the shift. And the first few days that I used the keyboard playing Destiny, even though I'm really proficient at a keyboard, I found that it was really difficult for me to learn how to play video games with that keyboard. And interesting enough, I retrained myself to be right-handed while I play video games as well. So it was kind of a combination mixture of 2 things that, really threw me through a loop. Now I play all my video games, just with keyboard and mouse versus controller. But, when you're using a walking treadmill, the first few times that you use it, it's going to be unusual. It's going to be unnatural. You're going to be all over the place. You're going to be bouncing around. You eventually get used to this aspect of things after a few days or a few weeks, and it becomes more of a second nature thing. And you see it. I mean, we have our check-ins. Everybody's working. Everybody's walking. Everybody's bouncing around. It works out really well. But, again, making that time for yourself. And, again, I doubt anybody, unless you're doing a presentation, formally in front of hundreds of people, I doubt anybody's going to have an issue with you walking on a treadmill as you're on a presentation. In fact, they're going to be like, man, I wish I was walking on a treadmill, while I was on this call. So, take those into consideration and make those times for yourself, but also plan them out accordingly as you go through.
Yeah, and it's just about finding a way to make it work, and whatever that sort of looks like. And I guess the point that I always would have made with people coming into the gym and being like, oh, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, blah blah blah. If you look at your day as is, take all the bullshit fillers out that are like time spent on social media, time fucking watching Netflix or catching up with whatever bullshit program that you watch, time faffing about on, run about the house, whatever it is. Once you start to take all these things out, you have a lot more time in your day than you realize. And this is something that I've sort of found myself, and you maybe have as well, as the business has grown, that, last year I was like, busy week, it's hectic, blah, 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 blah. 6 months later, I'm like infinitely busier again, but still able to manage. And I'm like fucking busy. And I'm never a person, because I'm cautious of people saying to me, oh no, I'm too busy to do this. I'm never a person who would be like, oh, really busy, blah, blah, blah. I'm cautious of that. But as I have grown and as the business has grown, it has taken up a lot more of my time. There's more time commitments. And as you said, more one-to-one calls, more group calls, more check-ins, all these things take time. But there's definitely levels to how busy I have been. And you feel like you're at the ceiling, you feel like you're at capacity. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, fuck, I was getting it easy 6 months ago. And then again, it would happen. And I think, again, from a business perspective, there's definitely peaks and troughs in that as well. Sometimes you need to go, right, I'm going to be fucking flat to the wall here for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And then you sort of take your foot off the gas for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But it's knowing sort of when to have these times and when to fully go for it and go, it's going to be a shit show for a couple of weeks, but I'll manage. And then at the other side of it, you can sort of pull back or rest or whatever needs done.
Yeah, and I think we all go through these spirals of ups and downs and ebbs and flows in our time management, right? And there's times where listen, it's just a busy freaking day, and I need to train at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, right? Or I might get half my workout in and I finish out the other half in an hour time, where maybe I do it in half-hour blocks, right? I don't necessarily like doing that because I think it ruins kind of the flow of things, but for days that you need to absolutely get it in and you just don't have the time, those are things that to take into consideration of kind of blocking it up or chunking it up as you go along. But there's times where I'm working out at 9, 10 o'clock at night, just to put the work in, because I just don't have, the time throughout the day to be able to do it. And there's times where, I'll be traveling and relaxing and, on vacation, but I still make time for myself too. So I went, I actually talked to Ben about this when I did it. I went to, where was it? North Carolina. And, we got a little place, like an Airbnb on the beach, and, it was a nice beach, type of place, and just relaxing, chilling, week out there. And, the first thing I did is I looked at, hey, well, there's actually an Orange Theory a mile and a half away from my place. And there's actually a Planet Fitness, and a mile and a half away as well. So I can still get my workouts in, and I'll just wake up a little bit earlier before the kids, get up, and I'll get my Orange Theory in, and I'll, get my lift in, and it'll be all good. And I'll still get my training in as I go along and go and do it. So, but even then, if you're just taking a week off for yourself, personally, and for your family and things like that, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking a week off of training and going out and relaxing and doing the stuff that's good for your mind and everything else. So, but then, you just got to be able to kick that back up again to go and do it. And that's the biggest thing with all this time management stuff, is that, we had a whole podcast dedicated to lifestyle. And I think it's important to recognize that this is now your new lifestyle, right? This isn't hey, we're going to do this for a week or two or for a month or two or things like that. This is, hey, from here on out, here's how we're going to do it. And it's only, about, living a healthier lifestyle. It's about, doing things better for ourselves, being there for our kids, being there for our family, being there for ourselves, maximizing our brain potential. It's about, wanting to better yourself and to change your lifestyle to be more active in nature. And, I think, with these time hacks and time management, again, the biggest, thing that I hear, the two biggest things that at least I see from people that ask you questions, Ben, is, how do I fit all of these calories in a day? Or how do I fit all of these, pieces of protein in a day? And how do I fit the time in to actually do this training? And once you can answer those and you have a good answer to yourself about that, everything else, I think, really starts to fall in line, as long as you have the right mindset in place.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, with the time thing, again, it just comes down to having an honest conversation with yourself and looking at your day and go, right, well, where can I tidy this up a bit? And I've done this with clients before, and they're like, oh, I don't have time for this, and blah, blah, blah. And we would literally sit down, draw out their day, what they look like, or their week, whatever it is, and go through and go, right, well, you have an hour here because you're fucking about doing this, or, if you got up an hour earlier, you could, get the stuff around the house done, whatever it is that you need to do. And you start to find time in places that you didn't think you could have it, because, okay, at this specific time, you might be busy doing something, but it maybe isn't a high priority task. And the way that I would always look at that when people come to me, they say, oh, I'm just so busy, I can't do my training. The way that I translate that is, it's just not a priority. It's not that you don't have time. It's just not a priority in your life at this minute. And then once they get that sort of into their head, they're like, right, okay, well, where can I find this extra hour to go out for a walk, or where can I find this extra hour throughout the day? Like, I have clients that will go and train on their lunch break, like you said, they maybe have to run down to the gym. They'll only get a 45-minute session and make it back, but they make it work because it's a priority to them, because they know and they feel the benefits of it. And I think, it's just about taking a step back, looking at your week and going, right, I don't really need to do this. Do I really need to go and, it's generally for me, it's a social media thing, and it's time spent watching Netflix, staying up late and not getting up early enough. Like, I will get up earlier if I need to, like this morning, to fit everything in, or I will stay up later if I need to. Even on, what night was it? It was either Friday or Saturday, and this is not something I've done for a very long time. I started into a task, and I was like, right, I'm going to leave it because, it's coming up to 9:30. I've promised myself that, come 9:30, I'll go to bed, whatever. I got up in the bed, and I just could not switch off from it. So I got up, came back down, and finished the task, and I was up until like 1 a.m., but I got that done in time that I normally wouldn't have had. Did I suffer in sleep? Yeah, I did a bit. But again, I feel like I'm in that sort of period of work and of business that I have quite a lot on. So I need to just sort of find the time in places that I usually wouldn't to get it done.
Yeah. And I think, the overcoming those challenges and, finding those periods of time becomes a really important aspect of it. And I struggle with that too, motivation is definitely, I think, one piece, but I also think when you look at, when you start building certain prioritizations, like my businesses and my family are number one, right? You have to be able to do those things, right? You can't let those falter or fall as you go along. But at the same time, not everything needs to be accomplished today, as you mentioned, right? And, it's one of those things where, like, can I get this done tomorrow? Can I do something else in order to free up the time that I need to? Or does this appointment really need to happen? Managing your time respectfully and, again, assigning a value to it of some sort, if it's monetary, like, hey, I don't need to do this because, it's not, in my ability to be able to really have a large impact in this because it's not part of my job or whatever. Those are all things that I think we need to really kind of take into consideration as we're planning this. And, I struggle with time management. I know everybody says I have, 1,000 hours a day, but
you do.
But sometimes, it's just like nonstop. Like I'll tell you today, I woke up at 7:00, had a quick call at 7:30, got to Orange Theory at 8:15, did my workout, got to my house at 9:30 because it's, about a 10-minute drive away. And then I had a call at 9:30, I had a call at 10:30, and I had a call at 11:30, and I call at 12, right? The one we're doing now. And then right after this, I have, a small period between now and my next one where I'm giving a board presentation. So I actually have to dress into a suit, but I'm going to go get my workout done, beforehand, get some lifting in, and then get my board presentation in. And I'm still fitting it into my day-to-day activities, even though it's a very busy day for me, right? So, again, I think it's important to recognize that we all have time in our day, regardless of if we do or we don't. It's just a matter of how much time do we have, how much can we prioritize, and when's the best way for us to actually go and manage it. And you mentioned a bunch of different structures of doing it. I just find that, for me, keeping it simple with Outlook calendar, I just literally sync all of my calendars directly to that. My wife has access to my calendar. A number of folks in my companies have access to my calendar. They know when I'm busy, when I'm not. They know that, from 8:15 to 9:15 Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, they don't schedule things at that time. So, I've gotten a kind of a cadence down that works for me, schedule wise, and reoccurring things that allow me to continuously build everything I need to.
Yeah, and I think, even when we first spoke about this podcast, like I was fully, like, I know how busy you are and how much you have on, but we sort of said that if we can have it scheduled at the same time every week, and then if something comes up, it's easy to change that one week, then, that time's blocked out, and that's what happens. So I'll never book anything in for, or you never will. And if we need to change it like we have, then it's absolutely fine. I think that just come back to the point about, prioritizing things and, putting a value on it. It was actually a guy that was mentoring me a bit said this to me. He says, if you put a value on your time and then you look at tasks, even he describes it, the example he used was going to the supermarket to get your shopping. He was like, say, for example, he used the example of, I think it was £150. He was like, if I value my time at £150 an hour, does he want to spend 45 minutes going to the grocery store, spend 45 minutes in the grocery store, and then spend 45 minutes coming back? It's going to cost him like £325 or £350 for that time-wise for the journey, whenever I can just get it delivered to the house. Do you know what I mean? So even that buys him back those 2 hours or whatever. He's like, I haven't been to a supermarket in, years because since they've started doing delivery. So things like that, if you just look at, okay, right, well, is it a case of I'm going to have to go and do this thing? It's going to take me this amount of time. Like, what is that value to me? And one thing that I sort of think differs from if you're self-employed or run a business to, just have a regular 9-to-5 job or whatever it is, those two people generally don't understand each other. Because if I'm talking to one of my friends and like, oh, can we go and do this at this time, or can we go and grab a coffee and blah 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 blah, because they finish work at 5:00 and that's work finished for them, they're like, well, why can you not do that? I'm like, it doesn't really work like that now, especially because I work in fucking however many different time zones. I'm like, I feel like I'm always up in each time zone one way or another. But they just don't understand it, because they're like, well, I mean, I finished work, so I can just go and hang out and go to the cinema and, spend all this time here, which is obviously great. I would always do those things, but not to the extent that I would have done them before. And I think recognizing that and sort of recognizing the point that you're at in life and the things that you need to sacrifice to take business and take whatever it is to where you want to be is important as well. Like, I'm sure that, you know, how many years has it taken you to get to this point with your business, and how much did you have to sacrifice time-wise to actually get there? But again, it comes right back to that, having the discipline to do all that shit then and make the sacrifices then has given you the freedom to be able to schedule, you know, Orange Theory 3 days a week and be slightly more in control of your own diary.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there, is that there is no 9 to 5 when you own your own business, right? You know, you are always on call, you are always fielding stuff, you're always getting stuff done. I mean, you know, I find that when my kids go to bed, usually around, you know, 9 or 10 o'clock is kind of my time. You know, I have a window between, you know, 10 to 11 or 10 to 12 where I can either, you know, catch up on emails or just take some time for me to go play some video games or spend time watching a show with Aaron. You know, it's kind of like my decompressed time when the kids are in bed. You know, it's kind of my time to go and do things. But you're right in the sense that, you know, it's like, you know, my day doesn't end at 5. You know, I might be able to get a walk in, but, you know, I'm still doing some stuff afterwards. I'm still working afterwards. And it's taking me several years and a lot of frustration and failures and everything else that goes along with running your own business to get to a point to where, you know, I have a really strong leadership team on all company fronts. You know, they're running the day-to-day operations and tasks of everything, which is great. So it allows me to be more of that visionary CEO type of person, you know, for the organization to ensure that we're still doing what we can, you know, impact the culture, all that good stuff. So, but it's taken quite a long time to get to that type of spot. And it's not something that, you know, I look back at all the work that I did to get into it, and you're like, my God, I really spent a lot of time, you know, building this thing out here, but it was obviously worth it. But I never lost focus of being there for my family and friends. My health definitely deteriorated because of it. And I think that's one point to bring up, is that, you know, why are we doing this? And, you know, why are we killing ourselves, you know, from a sedentary type of job, and not, you know, trying to maximize our lifespan for our families and friends and everything else that goes along with it. And that's really, I would think, the importance of where time management for yourself really comes into the play. You have to prioritize you, because, you know, you are a pinnacle part to your family, you're a pinnacle part to your friends, you're a pinnacle part to yourself. And so if you don't make time for yourself, you know, you're essentially letting those folks down, for lack of a better term, because you're not going to be there for a long time. I mean, again, I've already had heart surgery, I've had a thyroidectomy, I've had stomach surgery, I've, you know, you know, I go to the doctor, and whenever I see a new doctor, I'm like, so, hey, I'm going to need about an hour and a half to 2 hours to go over everything. It's yeah, it's been a long road. It's been a long road. So, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I just had a blood work done from my general doctor the other day, and you know, she said that, listen, you are literally in the best shape I've ever seen a 39-year-old be in before, and that's a huge accomplishment, right? You know, I'm 39. She's like,
competing against every other 39-year-old ever.
I'm like, yes, I beat them.
Did I get a medal?
I beat them. Yeah, I'm like, where's my trophy? Where's my trophy? So, you know, if there was a trophy for that, I would honestly push myself 10 times harder just to go and do it. Even if it's like this little tiny little, you know, hey, you get the scissors that says you have the best health out of everybody here. I would go
with Jason. He has a thing on his, whatever the brand of his treadmill is, that I think it's if you get 350, it's either 300 or 350 workouts done in a year, they send you a flag. And I'm like, you're busting your ass to get a fucking flag. And it's like, what do people do for free shit? You know, what can I do here to get a free t-shirt? It's hilarious. And I said, look, if you can do, once you get the 100 workouts done on True Coach, I'll get you a flag made and send it to you. And it's like, you do these things for these ridiculous achievements, but it works. It works. But yeah, I think that's actually a really, really good point to note, because a couple of people have mentioned this, you know, in calls, that actually since the podcast started, and probably we've been able to tell the story a bit more. People are coming to me like, you know, I've spent the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is, really focused on my career, and I'm really successful, and, you know, all these great things, which is incredible. But now they're like, shit, right, I need to make sure that this is actually going to be worthwhile, because what's the point of me getting to this point where I'm really successful and I only live for another 2 years? And I know that that's maybe, it's a harsh reality of it, because, you know, you do put your sort of health on the back burner. And I think that a lot of people are starting to realize, they're like, shit, right, okay, career's in a good place. Now I need to focus on me. And if there's a way that you could sort of do that on the way up, then, you know, obviously that it's been different for me because my career is focused around health and fitness. So it sort of went hand in hand. But I get that, you know, it's not always been everybody's focus. And it's actually funny today, and this is maybe a good other point to note. Like, I had to leave my nephew off to school, and I was like looking around, and I obviously never had this way of school run before. And I was looking around at all these other, like, obviously dads or people, and I was like, fucking hell, like, it didn't really look like anybody else like looked after themselves in any way. And I'm like, not even from that perspective, but from a setting an example for your children kind of thing. And I'm like, this is not cool. Like how do people not prioritize this, or how do people not, you know, want to be better or feel better? But yeah, that was just a bit of a side note this morning. That's a bit of an insight as to how my brain works. But another point on, you know, making things work and fitting things in. My biggest struggle with time is whenever other people control it. So on Friday, I went up to Derry with Thomas and Martin to do his coaching shoot. So it's about an hour and 45 minutes journey. So I went with Martin up in the car. That was fine. We ran over time, and I was meant to get back for the other group coaching call at 4 p.m. And I was looking when we left, I was like, I'm never going to make this. So I moved the call back half an hour, and everybody was very accommodating, which was great. Got back, stuck in like Friday rush hour traffic, and I was like, the only way I can do this is if I physically open my laptop and take a call in the car. So I pulled into the car park, hotspot off my phone, and took the call on my laptop. And it was the only way that I could get it done. And then I had another like onboarding call with a new client straight after that. And the same thing, I was like, look, I can do everything that I can do stood here because I have all the information on my laptop. I apologize that I'm in the car, but this is the way it is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's making it work one way or another. Wasn't ideal, but still was able to do both calls. And then I got to the gym after that. So I still got it all in, just maybe a bit ropey, but it's done.
Well, I think you talk about, why are we doing this, right? Why are we trying to better ourselves? And, I can tell you, one, as we get older, it's a misconception that we have to slow down. We have to feel bad. We have to ache. We have to do all these things, right? And that's not true. Like, we can literally age and feel fantastic. Again, I feel the best I've ever had in my entire life. But most importantly, like I was playing basketball with my kid the other day. I was, roughhousing with him. We had this little game where, we had like this little chair, and they have to jump back and forth between it. And if I catch them, I get to tickle them or whatever. And they, think it's the greatest thing ever. And then they run all around. I have to catch them. And, so by the end of that, by the way, it's like a huge cardio workout. I'm pretty much toast, but like it's bedtime for me. But, it's like those exciting things that I can do because I have the energy to play with my kids and to be there to coach my kids' 6th grade, basketball team. I'm, the head coach there for that. It's like, I would have never even thought about that, as even an option for me, a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, going back to obese Dave. It's one of those things where, the time management aspects of things, I think, is such an overlooked piece of it because we all feel like we don't have the time in a day to be able to accomplish this because we're just so busy. But the truth of the matter is we do. We're just not prioritizing ourselves for it. And I think that's, the heart of this issue is that, you have to have the mindset, you have to have the nutrition, you have to have the repeatability of actually going in and putting the work in. But most importantly, you have to put the time in for yourself to make those changes for that to occur. And, I got asked on social media this weekend, like, Dave, what's your secret? Well, there is no secret. There's no secret. It's literally I eat less food than I put in my body, or right now I eat more food than I put in my body so I can gain weight. I literally repeat the same workouts all the time, day in and day out. And I just put time in for myself. And that's the secret. There's no special, supplement that's going to make you gain weight except for a whole bunch of creatine. Just kidding. There's a video TikTok there, but it's making sure that you just repeat this lifestyle because it is now a lifestyle. You're healthy, you're active, you're there for your kids, you're there for your family, and you reap the rewards for your benefits. The more you do it, the better cardiovascular you're going to have, the better your organs are going to work, the better your body's going to produce, the better your digestion's going to happen, the more energy you're going to have. You become a machine that is burning on, perfect fuel, and you've just got an oil change and you just got a tune up and everything's perfect, right? And it's one of those things where, unless you've gone through this type of cycle before, like, again, I remember, obese Dave. I had no energy. I would always, feel bad. I'd be sick all the time. I can't remember the last time I've been sick. All of these things, just your body works so much better and you feel so much better for yourself.
Yeah, I think that point, about there is no secret. I don't know if you've seen the film Central Intelligence with The Rock and Kevin Hart. And and so he's like this obese guy in school, and then he meets him after, and he was like, Kevin Hart's like, oh, you look amazing. Like, what did you do? And he was like, oh, not much. I just worked out 7 days a week for 6 hours a day for the past 20 years. And you're like, yeah, there's no secret to it. But it is just a case of consistency. And, on Friday, obviously I mentioned, my good friend tell me, he's a coach as well, he's going to take control of my food. So I had a bit of a chat with him, and he's like super on the ball, road to professional bodybuilder, like ticks every single box. And I used to be that like regimented with my food, like meal prep whenever I had to go to the gym and stuff like that. But he was like, what's going on with your food at the minute? And I was like, I don't really feel like I'm in control of it, blah, 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 blah. And we dug a little bit deeper on it. And it was funny because once we actually sort of broke it down, although I maybe didn't think I was 100% on it, there's a lot of things that have been habitual to me over the years because I've been so consistent with it that are still there. So I maybe wasn't 100%, but I was definitely a damn lot better than, a lot of other people, or what I potentially was when I was younger. Like there's things that, I just know now. Like I know how to hit the calories. I still was probably hitting my protein goal without even really having to think about it. But it's only come over time and actually putting the work in and being consistent with it that it just becomes a habit.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And the food aspect of things, there are probably things where I'm not so accurate on. For example, like sometimes at night, I'll eat, like some wheat thins or some, cheese crackers or things like that. It's kind of like a snack while I'm playing video games or something like that, and maybe I don't get exactly how many, crackers I'm eating for a full calorie count. And so there's some habits that I'm not too happy with on myself. But you look back at where I was from a nutrition aspect, and again, this goes into time management as well. I always get the people of, oh, I can't log all my food. That just takes too much time. Man, it takes me like 10 seconds to go and add what I just ate. It's already in my thing for today. I had a bagel with butter. I had a protein shake because I just gotten done working out. And so look at that and say, well, I have time for that. Like it just takes 10 seconds. It's time management of taking the time to put into yourself. But I look back at that, of who I was 2 years ago, of what I was eating. I had no clue how many calories I was actually putting in my body. I thought, hey, I'm eating healthy, so I must, be perfectly fine there. It's got to be because I have bad metabolism, I'm, or this or that or whatever. And until you get a good baseline of that, until you kind of build it all out, you really just don't have a good understanding of it. But again, it comes back into time management of spending the time to prep your food, or spending time to, understand what you're going to eat and kind of plan the day out. I plan my day from a meal perspective pretty much every day. I know I might not get down to the granular level of saying this is what I'm going to eat this time, but I know generally what I need to eat to hit my protein goals. I know what I need to eat to get my macros, at a certain place from a carbohydrates and fats perspective. I know if I'm running low or I miss a meal, what I need to do to get those calories in very quickly, so that I can maintain those goals. So, it's just planning your day out the way that you would want to do from yourself, both from a food perspective, both from an operating, on how to get your workouts in. All of those things are really important for you to consider as you're going through this whole process.
Yeah, and I think it literally just comes down to forward planning and what you can actually commit to. And I don't know about you, but I'll sit the night before. So I'll sit, I sat last night, Sunday night, and wrote out my list for today so that, number one, I'm not thinking about all the shit I need to do at night time and I can actually sleep. But number two, whenever I wake up, I can just go to my list and go, right, okay, well, this is the things I need to do, and just literally go through it. The same applies for your food. You know what I mean? Like, one of the biggest things I think it was Alison shared was, she plans ahead. So she'll sit the night before and maybe put her 3 main meals in. So she knows what she's going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then she knows the buffer she has for calories or snacks either side of that. And again, it just is a forward planning thing. And like I said to you, whenever I send you that meal plan that I'm going to be on across, it's, I'm not a big fan of meal plans in terms of recommending them to other people, but I know they work for me, and sometimes I just need somebody else to take control. And for me, what that will allow me to do is, okay, yes, I am going to have to spend a bit of extra time prepping my meals days ahead, but that time prepping those meals days ahead is going to be a lot less than if I had to actually cook those meals as I needed them day to day. So, on a Sunday night, if I prep Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday meals, it's maybe take me an hour and a half to prep 15 meals. Whereas if I have to cook 15 meals individually, it's definitely going to take me more than an hour and a half. So having that sort of like it just comes into the discipline of it, having that discipline to prep ahead. And then it means that, number one, they're there, so that if I get hungry, I can just go and grab the meal, and I'm not trying to eat a bag of popcorn and, a bag of Doritos and whatever else. You just eat the meal that's there because it's there.
Yep.
And I think probably the biggest, again, if we bring it back to Jocko, it is discipline equals freedom. Having the discipline to do all these things just gives you the freedom on the other side of it. And I think, it's just a bit of forward planning, being realistic with your time, and just managing the high priority tasks and filling in the rest. And for me, a high priority task is obviously looking after you guys, looking after my family, and looking after myself. And actually, I go back to Friday. I was running late from Martin on Friday, and I was conscious of the journey and the whole day of how I had to run. And Harper was at the door, and I was in the car, and I could hear her being like, hug, hug. And she's like coming on too. So she's like got this real cute voice. And I was like sat in the car, and I was like, I can't just drive off. So I had to get back out of the car, come up and give her a hug. She like ran towards me. But that's like, I prioritize her over anything else. And it's knowing your priorities in the order that they go in.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it any better. It's the time management aspects of your life, your family, and everything else that comes around that. Work is here to supplement us and for us to have a good life with our families and friends and things to that effect. It's not for us to spend our entire lives working. And so, we need time for ourselves to keep ourselves healthy. And it comes down to making time for yourself to ensure that you can go and do it. But I think we did a full hour on this. This is great.
Yeah, we did good.
Yeah.
We did good. Discord server, you want to mention about it?
Oh, yeah. So, obviously, take a look at our Discord server. It's discord.gg/hackingyourhealth. And we have such a great community there. A lot of great people just, helping each other day in and day out with positivity, questions, everything else. Ben and I are obviously there. We always like to help everybody out in their journeys. And we're seeing just a lot of success with people, out there, with a lot of different folks having, just things that they haven't been able to accomplish before just by going through this. And so, we really appreciate that. That feeds us, so share your experiences, come join the Discord server, obviously listen to our podcast. Those are all things that feed us back, from a motivational perspective to keep this going. So we appreciate the community that we've been able to build, and a lot of just amazing folks that have come along with it. It's really great to see their perspectives of things. And there's a guy in the server, his name's escaping me right now, but he does such a clean, it's like a 555-pound deadlift. And
I saw he's got the red rig, and I'm like,
dude, he's like half my size, from like a tallness perspective. It's just insane. It's just the beast mode, man. It's just I'm like, man, I need to get there. So he might be my new person I try to beat here soon. But it's one of those things where I think you look at that and you're just like really happy for the folks that are making some progress there. And so it was Mortius Prime was the one that did there. Said 550 coming smooth, and you look at it, it's like. Yeah, it's like butter. It's like so smooth. It's
yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't even look like you're lifting 550. It looks like you got like 135 on there. I'm like, man, I'm so jelly. But just a great community and great people, and just ever growing. And we just want to keep helping folks out. That's our mission.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspirational people in there as well. Do you know what I mean? And it inspires me, and it leads me to do more. And as you said before, if you wake up and you feel shitty and you're like, oh, I don't really want to do it. You're like, can't really let the side down. Do you know what I mean? There's thousands of people in the Discord getting shit done. Because you get shit done in a sense, so you can't. And I'm the same. I'm like, well, I can't not be doing it because I'm here at the forefront being like, this is everything that you should do, but I'm not going to do it. And I guess the last point to finish on is the merch. I spent some time on that. It should be with you soon. Anybody who's interested, we're testing the quality of the product and also the system, the process, and things like that. But it should be coming soon, and everybody can have a wee Hack Health hoodie.
I'm so excited about the merch. Like, that's my biggest thing. It's like, and Ben and I had this talk earlier. It's like, it's got to be quality. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be, so we're pilot testing some of the merch right now just to make sure it doesn't suck. Because, crappy merch sucks. Like, when you get a shirt and it's like all like frail and it only lasts like a month, and the design, it's like, you got to make it soft and fluffy and feel good on you, and or else I won't wear it. I don't wear harsh shirts. Like, I just don't do it. I don't wear shirts typically, but
I actually did. I actually designed one specifically for you. So once your order comes, it will be there, and people will know that it's ready because in the podcast we'll be wearing it. And if anybody watches on YouTube, like, oh, the merch must be ready to go.
Well, hey, what a great podcast episode. We'll be back at you next week. So wearables is this week getting released on Tuesday, and then next week when this podcast comes out, we'll be on hacking your time and business, and then we'll have some good ones coming up here, and then we're gonna start getting into bringing some folks on, which I think is gonna be really awesome. So
yeah, I can't wait for the Chris and Dave show episode.
I'd like to rephrase that as the Dave and Chris show. Thank you. Yes. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, that's fine.
Right, cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.